Grapevines. Oh my goodness, you guys, it looks so dark in here. It's super gloomy, it's raining. I'll show you guys what it looks like outside. Like, it's crazy. I feel like it's nighttime. But yeah, that's what outside's looking like. It was actually raining a lot harder earlier, but it's calming down now. I wanted to share with you guys though, like what's going down today. So I know that you guys have like heard Jerry and I talk about like possibly adopting sometime in the future, and how we have gone back and forth between having another baby or possibly adopting. And honestly, the more and more we think about like adoption, like later on down the line, I don't feel like we are going to do that anytime soon. But one of my good friends, she is a foster mom. And so I invited her over to kind of chat about the adoption process and just things that go on in the adoption world, because there's a lot of things that, you know, we aren't really familiar with the adoption process, and the things, I mean, we've heard that it can be like super, super tough. And so I kind of just want like clarity and just to see like, okay, is it something that we really gonna consider it seriously? Because if we are, I really wanna know like what I'm getting into. I feel like that'll help us, because we have been considering it. It's not like we've just been like saying it and not like ever really thinking about it. It's just, it's been so like, I don't know, it seems like so maybe like a complicated process. Some people have said it's like crazy expensive, and some, I don't know, we just hear different things. Some say it's like really, really easy, and some say it's really, really not, depending on where you adopt from. And of course, we've heard local adoptions are easier, but who knows if even that's true. So I don't know, we kind of just like wanted clarity and wanted to talk to her about adoption. So she'll be over in a few minutes, and if she lets me like vlog it, then I'll totally share everything with you guys, because I think it could be really beneficial and like helpful for other people, and maybe people that are watching my channel that really have thought about it too, but really don't know much about it. So I wanted to introduce you to our really good friend, Jihae.
Hi.
And she actually has a podcast. Do you want to talk about your podcast?
Sure. Okay. My podcast is called Fostering Voices, and it's for voices in foster care and adoption. And so I like to just share people's experiences, people who are in foster care. I mean, I have a couple of adults who grew up in foster care, and they share their stories. And then also parents who are raising foster babes, and also families who've adopted. I think I only have one so far of an international adoption, and all the other stories have been local adoption through foster care.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a fun journey. I'm on like episode 29. So.
29, y'all. Yeah. That's awesome. I think you have more than we do on ours.
Well, guess what? If I had a YouTube channel, there'd be nothing on it.
So y'all, I will link her podcast information down below. Make sure you guys follow her, especially if you guys are interested in the whole adoption process and just finding out, foster care. Yeah. But the reason for me like asking if I could film it is really because I feel like a lot of other people will probably benefit from our questions that I'm gonna ask.
Yeah, ask away.
So is the adoption process like really hard? Because I always like, what kind of scares me away personally, that why I keep like going back and forth, is I hear like it's a really tough and like long, hard process.
Yes.
Oh, it really is?
Well, I mean, it depends. Like, so for international adoption, you know, you go through an agency and you shell out at least like $10,000, I would say. I feel like that's kind of standard, no matter what country you adopt from and all of that stuff. But, you know, there's a need for that as well. And so I think you just have to kind of listen to your heart and what is right for your family. If you guys feel very like diverse and like you're open to like accepting a child from a different culture and then allowing that child to experience their culture and just kind of making that a new norm for your family. So I know a lot of, you know, like Caucasian families that have adopted like Chinese kids or Korean kids, and they do an amazing job of like looking for whatever resources are in their city for like fairs and cultural you know, festival type things. And I think that's great, and like introducing food and allowing that to be a new part of their family. But you know, if your family is very like mac and cheese only, and it's just a matter of like finding the right fit for you.
How long could the process take? Like if you say, oh, I spend the money, like how long could it take?
And I thought you said 10,000. I've heard like, I thought adoption was like 30 grand. I thought it was.
It depends on where you go through.
Or where you go through?
Yeah, where you go through. Okay. Through the state, I don't know. I don't want to give totally wrong information, but I feel like it was 10 to 20 for this like specific program that this agency is running. And I know there are other ones very similar to it. Now, we've adopted, so our 3-year-old we adopted out of foster care, and that was free. Like 100% free.
So if you go through foster care, it's free?
Yeah. And
because they need the homes faster or
kind of
sooner.
Yeah, like those children are
worst cases.
Something like that. That is also difficult. So the drawback of doing that is same thing. Like you can have a kid who is in foster care, who's been there for however long, and their case is deemed as like, oh, it's going to severance. So the parents' rights will be severed, which means they are like open for adoption. And there are a ton of kids right now in Arizona and in many states, states, that are like open, ready for adoption. And a lot of those kids are between the ages of like 3 to 18. And 18 is when you age out of foster care. And so those kids are ready to be adopted. So they're out there, and that would be $0 from your pocket. Even our lawyer fees were covered because the state gave us a paper of like a handful of lawyers that they charge $2,000 for the whole legal process, and the state reimburses $2,000. So those people know they're just getting $2,000, and that was, none of it was our money. So it's kind of awesome. If you get a foster kid in your home, so like with Wesley, we got him when he was 3 days old from the hospital. So we're the only home he's ever been in. And we actually didn't think we were gonna adopt him or anyone. And so we just went along with his case plan, which was a reunification for him to go back to his parents. And that lasted for like 1.5 years, where he would see his parents twice a week and have visits with them in a like center type thing where they were supervised visits. And his parents were really sweet, and they really loved him and wanted him back, but they just couldn't do everything that the state required of them to get him back. And so when we did decide to adopt him, we told Wesley's lawyer, because all foster kids have their own lawyers, and then all the parents who get their kids taken away from them, they get lawyers as well. So it's not like no one's represented, everyone has representation.
I didn't know that. So Wesley was like taken away.
And so we told Wesley's lawyer that we were open to having an open adoption where like the parents could still see him. We would like leave communication open. So Wesley just had his birthday recently, so Chris emailed his parents like pictures and just an update, and we haven't heard from them in over 1 year, but we do see them on Facebook sometimes. We're not Facebook friends with them, but they have public profiles.
You see them active.
So yeah, and then the last time, I think maybe around Easter last year, Chris had sent them pictures, and so they took those pictures and uploaded them onto their profiles and just talked about their baby. It was interesting.
But you haven't, they didn't
reply.
They didn't reply to his email, but they just took the pictures, and we're like, okay, that's fine. So it's interesting. It's all different, but they don't know where we live. They don't know where he goes to school. You know, like we have safeguards up for that, to keep them safe, but they aren't dangerous people as far as we can tell. So we were open, like if they said, hey, can we meet you at a McDonald's? Can you bring Wesley? Like we would say yes.
Wow.
But at some point, you know, if it got too confusing for Wesley, or if he didn't want to see them, like we would never push that on him, you know?
So if you could explain, I didn't know for the longest, what's the difference between adoption and foster care?
I was gonna ask that.
So when you're in foster care, your parents still have rights to you as a child. You're a ward of the state, so the state like is your main guardian, I guess. And then the state gives you to a foster family, someone who's licensed to have foster kids.
So you guys went through that whole process?
So we went through a process. It took almost a year, but that's because we were slow, because I was dragging my feet.
Is it expensive?
No, it's free.
To be like registered or
as
licensed?
a foster parent? Yeah. So you just find an agency. There's a ton of them in Arizona and in whatever states you might be looking from. But you just find an agency. They have different things that you have to do, like maybe go to an orientation. And then here, they just recently changed it, I think last year, where before it was like going to 10 classes for 3 hours a week and then learning basically how to be a foster parent. Now I think it's only you go to 5 or 6 classes, and the other ones you do online, but it's still a lot of time. It's time consuming to do. And you can do it as a single mom, you can do it as a single individual, divorced, whatever. You don't have to live in a house, you can live in an apartment.
Do they do like background checks?
They do background checks.
Can you have like a criminal background? I
don't really know what that looks like. You definitely can't have anything on your background that involves children of anything. But I don't know, maybe if you shoplifted when you're 16, maybe that's okay. I don't know. I can look that up for you. But that's a good question. I'm not sure. They do a criminal check, and I'm sure there are some people who don't qualify. You have to try hard to not be able to qualify as a foster parent who like loves children and want to help them. And the process is long, and so if you're just kind of in it for like a weird reason, like kind of weed you out, you know.
So foster is kind of temporary.
Foster care is temporary. It's supposed to be temporary, and the goal of foster care is always to reunify with their families. And so that's important to remember. I think some foster parents who are in it for a long time and get really jaded with like, oh my gosh, like all of these parents are awful. I'm amazing and I rescue children. Like that's not the point. It's to like provide a safe place for children while they wait to see what happens, kind of thing.
And look, honestly, I think that's amazing that you guys be able to foster kids. How many kids have you fostered?
I think 5.
5. And to have that love in your heart to have a baby, take care of a baby, and not be hardened. To think like, yeah, their mom is terrible, I'm way better. To be self-righteous. That's so amazing. And I don't know, I just look at people like yourself, and my grandmother, she was a foster home as well. So I grew up with a lot of disabled foster kids. So is that a different process?
They do have like medically fragile licenses. They have, I think special needs, I don't really think has a special license. They might ask you to take some extra courses to kind of get up on different things that they might compensate specifically
for
and so
all fostering families?
Yes. So all licensed foster families get like a, I don't know what they call it, stipend. Reimbursement, I don't know.
Like food and stuff?
For, like diapers and whatnot. So if you have like kids 0 to 5 years old from foster care, they qualify for WIC automatically, which is Women, Infant, Child, and it's like it used to be checks that you would, give to the grocery store and you get whatever was on the check. Now they updated it and they have debit card things. And so I use WIC definitely because we get babies and formula is expensive. And so,
so you have just specific babies that you can take care of. Can you have like a age limit that you would only foster?
You can accept, right? It's your choice.
Our license is for 0 to 18-year-olds. Because they just wanted to license us for anything, which is fine. And our first placement we got was 17 months old, and she was very sweet, but I don't like toddlers. So that was not the right choice for our family. And she stayed with,
you have kids of your own.
I do. We have 3 bio kids.
3.
And they
their
right
ages
now are 11, 10, and 6. But when we started, they were like 7, 6, and 3 or 2. Yeah, 3.
Okay, so you had a toddler already.
So I already had a toddler.
That's important to say.
Right, and fortunately Mia was an amazing toddler. Like she was quite easy. She like potty trained herself, which none of my other kids did. And Wesley will not pee on the potty to save his life right now, so that's okay. But toddlers is not where I thrive, and so that was a interesting learning experience for our family. And then after she left, we said we're only doing babies, like infants. So our range, though we're licensed for 0 to 18-year-olds, we said we only want 0 to 3 month olds.
Only accept those.
Only accept them. And so you get calls from the state when your name is on like a list, and they say, hey, we just got a baby in who's 4 months old. It's a boy, he's African American, or he's Native. You know, they give you as much information as they have, and then you can say yes or no, depending on like if you feel like that's right for you.
Gotcha.
So there are a good number of Native kids in care, and a lot of times those kids are not up for adoption because tribes try to keep their kids within their tribes.
Gotcha.
And so you might have them in your home for a couple of years, but the chances that you're going to adopt them aren't always very high. And so that's what people know when they say yes to a Native child. Like they're like, oh, I want to adopt, then that would probably not be the best child to say yes to. So again, it's like who is right for our family? Who are we right for?
Can you tell me and share with them, what was the first time, what got you guys to this point to even get into fostering? Like, was it scary? Was it something that was just heavy on your heart? What made you accept that first child and sign up and do the whole thing?
The very first step for us was that we decided we wanted to have a 4th child.
Okay.
And so
Your own.
Our own 4th child. And so because Lily and Topher are only a year and a week apart,
Okay.
Wow.
like that was a butt kicker. So it was hard for like the first year or two, but then after that we finally caught our breaths, and then we're like, oh, okay, we'll eventually have another one. And then once we had Mia, I was already 30. I was like, okay, if we're gonna have another one, like it needs to happen sooner than later. And so we talked about having a 4th child. And so that was like really the catalyst of like, my heart is open to inviting another child into our home. And then honestly, like 2 weeks later, the church we go to, Sun Valley, they started partnering with the state because there's a huge crisis of kids in foster care. And so they really wanted families from churches to walk alongside the state and take foster kids in. And so then they started showing all these dang videos. Videos change people's lives sometimes. And so they showed these videos of these kids who needed homes. They also showed a video of a young family that had 2 little girls, and they were fostering a baby, and I was like, dang it. I think
No excuse for you.
I know, and Chris was like, we're doing this. I was like,
Wow.
I don't really want to. So that was interesting.
Chris, her husband, was more for it.
He was like the engine. He was pushing, he was pulling, he was doing all of the motions.
I didn't know that.
Wow, I didn't know that either.
Okay, Chris.
Yeah, so Chris was,
And you were dragging your feet.
I was definitely dragging my feet, which I think is why the process took so long.
I have a question. It's kind of like a really honest question.
Do it. I love honest questions.
So my biggest thing with me like going back and forth is like I love my kids.
Yes.
Like my fear is that I won't love the baby like as much as my kids, and if I can't,
then you don't feel like
then
it's
I
fair.
don't feel like it's fair.
Right.
Yeah, like I would feel so guilty, and I don't know, like with you having 3 biological kids and then 1 adopted, and you know, being a foster mom, like how has that happened? Or if I am feeling that way, if that is a concern, does that mean like adoption is like not for me?
No, I think it's good that you are thinking through all of these scenarios because they're real. I've definitely thought of that as well, and I think it's amazing what happens when you do foster and when you do adopt, because for me, I don't even like kids that much. Like
that. Well, that's how that's why I like thought of that, because like I couldn't be a nanny.
Yeah.
So like other people's kids would probably drive me nuts.
Yeah, like when I drop my kids off to daycare, I'm like, you women, coffee's for you guys, because you have 20 of these kids, or 10 even. Like it's a lot. I love my kids. I love Lily, Topher, and Mia. They're beautiful and precious, and they are me and Chris. Like it's a beautiful thing. And then Wesley came, and even though we didn't want to adopt him right away because we didn't think he was up for adoption, you know, we loved him. He was so precious. There is something so special about having a baby that you've known almost their entire lives. And I always give props to families that adopt older kids, like 10-year-olds, even 3-year-olds. I don't know how you adopt straight up toddlers, but like people do that and they're amazing. Those people to me are like rock star amazing people. But like having the baby and having that time to be his mama and like provide for his needs, and then having him grow and being told like I could be his legal mom, like it was amazing to me. I feel like God fills in that gap for me, like as a Christian. You know, a lot of other people have likened it to like the actual, I don't know, playing out of like God's love for us, and how we are technically all adopted brothers and sisters to Christ, you know, and so we see how God loves us. It is amazing to me that like I am able to love someone that I did not birth, that I never carried in my womb, and who I adore as much as I adore my children. And that was definitely something I thought of and something I didn't actually think was possible. And I was like, that's okay. I'll still love him and I'll still provide a home for him. I love him as much as I love Billy, Topher, and Mia. You know, and I think that's a gift from God.
Yeah,
you know?
For sure.
And I do know other foster families that have adopted, or other families that have adopted children and do struggle with that. It's a choice. Like all of the love stuff is a choice. And I think it's easy to think like, oh, I mean, there are cases where people have given their adoptive kids back. Like that breaks my heart. Because I feel like you've made a choice, like a commitment to love.
That just gave me chills.
Yeah, but it's like divorce, right? Like you said you were going to love each other forever and you didn't. You've chosen not to. And that's the same with these kids. Like they think they're disposable. So when you think your marriage is disposable, or that your children are as well, then yeah, you act in accordance to that. Like, oh, this just got hard, sorry, I'm out. Yeah. You know, but when you say, no, I'm committed forever, things are gonna get ugly and hard, but I'm committed to loving you forever, then that's how you act.
So my question is, we've talked about this before, because I thought I have strong views about it, do you remember what I'm about to say?
Yeah.
It's when the child grows up, they reunite with the birth mom or the birth family, saying, that's my mom, the adopted mom is not my mom. That's how I take it.
Right.
Or do you see it as, oh, you have two moms? Or you okay with them reaching out or trying to help them find their birth mom?
I would be open to that. I just feel like when you are a parent, you just want to do what's best for your kid. And when your kid is hurting because they feel like there's a hole in their heart, not because you haven't provided enough for them, but because they just know that there's something else, like just a little puzzle piece that they would like to find. I will help them look for that puzzle piece. And if that means, oh man, this puzzle piece is gold, and I didn't realize I was missing this my entire life, I'm latching onto this puzzle piece now, and that's the other mom, you know, like, that's their choice.
Look, that's where I say GA is a great person. Because, and we talked about this off camera before, it's just the fact that the kid calling the other person their mom, and her response was like unbothered by it.
Super selfless.
I mean, here's the thing, maybe my feelings might be hurt later. They will be, okay? But
just the fact that you would help them.
Yeah.
I would be like, man, you gotta find it on your own. Now, I wouldn't even say they adopted. I'm like, shoot, you my child. I gave birth to you.
You're so ridiculous.
I can show you the stretch mark, C-section.
Oh, Cherry.
Yeah, I don't care if you look different than me.
Right.
You're my child, and nothing else to talk about.
You're so funny.
I think a lot of traditional, because I remember Snooki, she's adopted, and she did an adoption story. Like, she said she's thought about reaching out to her birth mom, but she doesn't want to hurt her real mom's, or not her real mom, her adopted mom's feelings. And she's like, you know, it's not worth it, and like, I don't want to piss her off, but she would find it disrespectful. Where I think that's where Jerry but honestly, after I felt the same way as Jerry, like I thought it was like a slap in the face.
Your view was so different,
but when I heard your view on it, I was like,
yeah, it's very selfless.
It is like that's what God would want.
Yeah,
like
that's the right thing to do.
Yeah,
and I can't do it without God, because if Jerry's
I can't do any of it. I can't do any of it without God. But like, here's the other amazing thing that has brought me to where I'm at. Is I've seen so many good families raise not great kids, or raise kids and have really, really hard times with them.
Gotcha.
We have zero control over what our kids choose to do in the future. my kids could become like deviants of society. I'm doing everything I can to help my kids to never be people like that, right? But I can't control them. You can't put them in a bubble and they stay with you for 35 years, 50 years, whatever.
So I'm telling you, with that scenario of an adopted child, I can't control because I'm gonna brainwash them. They're gonna know that I'm your one and only.
Oh my God.
No, because I'm speaking from a standpoint of not a child being adopted and having a bad upbringing. No, I'm saying a great life and great foundation, great support, great love.
Yeah.
And you're not gonna want to look for no other love, no other peace.
But it happens though.
No, it wouldn't be allowed. Not by me. I'm speaking for myself.
Yeah, but then they
I'm
might
showing the
have
contrast.
resentment towards you.
They won't have resentment. They won't have no problems because.
So I'm praying for you guys and your children.
So
Thank
no,
you.
I agree with you on that as well. Like what you were just saying about how you really can't control them, because even just growing up, I'm totally different from my
all
sisters,
our siblings are different.
and you're totally different from your sisters. And our parents were all raised in the same house, under the same values, under the same rules, and we still all chose different paths.
Super different, right?
Yeah.
And some of the paths aren't even bad paths. Like for Chris, like he was a Marine. He was in Iraq for a couple of years, or a year after, all of 9/11 happened. Those things were hard for his parents to deal with, and his grandparents to like know that he was going to a dangerous place and he was doing something good.
So he's not from a military family?
No, he's not.
Wow. So he definitely went
just on his own, And I remember listening to a pastor whose son had chosen to be in the military after 9/11, and you're like, I don't want you to do that.
Yeah.
So it's not even like everyone's doing bad things. Like they're just doing something that you
different choices.
Don't want them to do, But like, I think those were great lessons for me to learn as a non-parent, to see other parents like walking out in faith, going through difficult times with their kids, and still loving them, and still choosing to parent, and still, doing their best, whatever that looks like. It's not all sunshine and roses. I can't guarantee that Wesley's not going to want to know his bio parents, but I also can't guarantee that Lily, Topher, and Mia, because they're made from Chris's and my DNA, like that they're going to be perfect for some reason and choose everything that we are choosing for them. We are very privileged. We're very blessed, and we want to bless others.
Yeah, to share that wealth.
And so foster care just became like the right choice for our family. My kids would complain about dumb stuff, like, oh, my toy broke. Oh, I don't have the latest toy. I don't have, things that Susie down the street has. I'm like, that's garbage. We're done with this. We're bringing in babies. You will share your toys, your broken toys with these babies. And it's been great. Like, I really am a firm believer that like kids just need to learn to be kind and compassionate, and foster care definitely makes you do that.
Wow. So definitely check out Jihay's podcast, Fostering Voices.
Yeah,
I'm about to listen to some later.
Yeah. You have how many episodes?
I have like 29. The first, 2 or 3 are like very specific, answering questions that people have about foster care. But you can connect with me on social media. I'm on Instagram as Fostering Voices, or just Jihay Watson. And I can answer any questions.
Yeah. Look, she's the nicest person.
I'm not that nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's hilarious, actually.
Very sarcastic.
She's funny.
So, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Thank you for being on camera with this big bright light.
I don't know why we didn't have Chris, because Chris is the face of fostering. And obviously the heart, too.
We have the best member of the family.
He should come next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll come.
So, we'll see y'all next time.
Bye, guys.